What's happening, guys? Kenny within the pocket, and I'm here today, guys, doing another On My Mind video, and I've got a few subjects I want to talk to you about today, and the first one is going to be sharpening choils and plunge grinds and finger choils, and just essentially the way that these knife makers are finishing out the heel of the blade. So that's the first subject I'm going to be talking about, and I could have probably done two videos here because it might get a little longer due to the second subject I'm going to be talking about here, which is going to be a bit of a rant, and that's going to be about Wranglestar and his review of this knife. I'm not going to get too into it right now because it's going to turn into a rant, and I just want to get right into plunge grinds and what I want to talk to you guys about there, and then we'll go into the whole Wranglestar thing. And yes, I do know your name. I just like to kid because of the way what Steve called him the other day in a video, which was, it was inadvertently, he couldn't remember his name, but yeah, I thought it was hilarious. So I'm going to go into that later, but first I'm going to get right into the plunge grinds, and I'm going to flip you guys around here and show you what I'm talking about. Alright guys, so like I said, I'm going to be talking to you guys about plunge grinds and finger choils and sharpening choils. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this, guys, a lot of people, I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, why didn't they give me a sharpening choil? Why didn't they do this? And a lot of times it's definitely... It's very true, and other times I think it's more of a preference thing, and that's why I wanted to do this. I want to talk about my preferences. It's going to be a discussion, and I want to hear your guys' preferences, and I want to see if I'm crazy. Okay, so essentially, the first thing I dealt with, my Para 3, I got that, and I do hear a lot of people complaining about Spyderco not putting sharpening choils, just doing the plunge grind straight to the blade, and they always end up having something like this going on, you know, where the cutting edge doesn't go all the way to the plunge grind. And the reason that happens is because they are sharpening these knives on machines, and there's just no way they could get right up to the plunge grind without gouging the hell out of the plunge grind and making a mess of things. So they stop short. And now I'm going to go right into that, and then I'll go into other types afterwards. I mean, you'll see on this knife, you'll see there's a lot of space back there that's unsharpened. Sorry guys, I didn't clean anything. It's just a quick video. I didn't want to go nuts cleaning everything up. I use my knives, so yeah. But so the reason they do that, in my opinion, I'm sure Sal has his, actual reasons that he did that. What I'm thinking they're thinking is that when you come and you get your knife, you can decide how you want that to finish. If you prefer a sharpening choil, you can go ahead and make yourself a sharpening choil. There's plenty of room there. Like I said, here's a factory grind. Or no, I'm sorry, that one's not factory. Yeah, I picked up the wrong one. There's a factory grind, and you can see where it's finished. You can easily come in there with a file or a Dremel bit and go ahead and add a sharpening choil if that's your preference. Or if you're like me, and I actually prefer, this is also because I'm using a KME sharpening system. I am starting to do more hand sharpening, and that is going to tell me whether like this preference will go ahead and coincide with how a hand sharpener would feel. And not everybody, guys. I mean, this is just me. Guys that use the KME might normally prefer a sharpening choil. I like it like this because I can get right up to that plunge grind. As I'm, using the stone, I go right up to the plunge grind, and I can get right up to it. I have no issue. And if I'm really worried about it, I can tape off the plunge grind, and then I'm not even worried about touching it. But honestly, my preference, I prefer this. I actually prefer this because when I'm cutting, I never have to worry about where my cutting edge is. If my material comes up to the edge and hits the plunge grind, it stops and it continues to cut. I never have anything. If there's a sharpening choil there, you will get your material hung up in it. Obviously, if you're just cutting simply out here, then you don't have to worry about that. But when I'm cutting a lot of boxes, I do find myself sliding up the blade sometimes and end up in that section of the knife, which if you have a sharpening choil, it does get hung up on materials. Now, yeah, that's a small price, you know, for a lot of guys that find it much easier to sharpen with a sharpening choil. For me, I don't necessarily find it that much easier with my system. So I actually prefer this. I never find myself coming off the cutting edge and sliding into the sharpening choil. In saying that, I can understand if people are having trouble and they're hitting their stones on the plunge grind. I see where the preference, like where guys are like, why don't you give me a sharpening choil? But I actually prefer this. And if they did a sharpening choil, then I wouldn't have an option. But that I actually do like, that they come all the way to the plunge grind. Now, it's already at 5 minutes. It's going to be a long one. With something like this, where there's a finger choil, to be honest, I like finger choils. I do. And I can get right up on that blade, and I can get really close to the materials. And when you're doing woodworking, that's actually very, that's very nice to be able to get up into that and get really close to your work. But in cutting boxes and stuff, when I do the review of this knife, you'll see this. When I'm cutting a lot of boxes down, I do find myself with material sliding into that finger choil. I don't notice it as much on this knife because I feel like there's so much belly and I have so much cutting surface, and the belly helps like kind of keep me where I am. And I didn't see an issue as much with this knife as far as like coming off the cutting surface. You can even see it. Like look at where the material is almost coming up into this area. You see the adhesive. Whereas on this knife, you can see most of the work's done out here. I don't notice it as much with this knife. Also has a broader blade and just more, I feel like I have a little more control. And I still have that option to come up here. So I don't mind this one quite as much, but I did notice this with a lot of these finger choil knives I have, where I find myself like the material coming up here, and then I stop cutting because obviously that's not a sharpened surface. So I have to like readjust and continue my cut again. That's not taking anything away from this knife. It's just a personal preference that I find myself, I would have actually preferred they just take this blade all the way up, have a sharpening choil right here, and just have another 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch of cutting surface. Personally, I would have rather had more cutting surface. On a knife like this, I'm not going to usually be choking up. But it is what it is, and I do think a lot of guys prefer this, and I think that's why a lot of companies are going that route. Even though, personally, it's not my favorite way of doing it. And I actually prefer this over that, because at least there, even if I'm choked up or back here, I have some way of kind of like feeling where the end of my edge is. So I actually prefer this if there's a finger choil. I prefer this way of finishing out the blade. Again, guys, this is my personal preference. This is more about discussion and trying to get your guys' opinion. Now, again, here's a knife where they bring it all the way back. And there's no finger choil, and I don't find it necessary. I think this is actually a little bit better. I don't have to worry about deciding which grip I'm going for. It's just right there. Go to work. No thinking about it. It's done. I prefer this, actually, guys. I'm not taking anything away from this, obviously, because it's one of my favorite knives. And I do love the finger choil, and I love the divot here where it's perfection. It's just a different, if I'm carrying it for different reasons, I would prefer that. But it, like in most of my everyday carry, this is fine, and I don't find myself needing a finger choil getting up closer to the blade. That's pretty close. I'm like half an inch away from the blade, from the end of the cutting surface. That's pretty, that's a controlled area there. I don't find myself needing more control than that. And then again here, like look at that, right up to the plunge grind, and you're not missing much surface there. You can even choke up here, but who finds that necessary, really? You're pretty close to the cutting surface there. And I get plenty of control with this. And if I want to sharpen it right up to it, I can. And I might add a little tiny sharpening choil with this one because it does have a little bit of a recurve, which isn't ideal. But yeah, I can still get in there with my stones and sharpen that up. I prefer that over something that's, like got the finger choil, because I won't get caught up in that flat area. And then something like this where, the sharpening choil just pretty much is the end right up into the tang. There's not as defined of a plunge grind line. Now, on something like this, they are infamously known for not bringing this plunge grind out enough, which they did on this one. I had to come back and do my own sharpening choil. I had to extend the sharpening choil so that I could get a nice smooth blade without a smile at the end. So that's the other side of that, where they don't bring it out far enough, which is a whole nother story. We can go on a rant about that. I know there's a lot of guys who complain about that. And then, and then like this guy, just bring it all the way back. I have no issues with this. I'm close enough to the blade. I don't have to worry about, getting caught up in the finger choil or anything. I've got a nice solid cutting surface there. The sharpening choil isn't perfect. As you can probably see, there's a little bit of plunge there. There is a flat there. I think that was also by design. If you guys saw the unboxing of this thing drops so fast that you could easily cut your nail open. Now, I did take this guy apart yesterday, guys, and look at how smooth it is. Yeah. It is absolutely falling free, sliding right in. I don't have to shake it at all anymore after cleaning it up. Yeah, amazing. I'm not going to get into that because I can talk 20 minutes about that right now. But, okay, and yeah, this guy. They did a nice little sharpening choil there for this. It was enough so that I'm not like getting too much of a smile at the end. I know some of these I've seen where they didn't go far enough with that, and you see a smile at the end of the blade. Yeah, really well done sharpening choil there. What's weird to me is these have sharpening choils. I brought these guys in because they don't, which was kind of odd to me. Like, why would they do a sharpening choil on the Recon but not on the American Lawman or the Ultimate Hunter? Little weird to me, guys. Let me know what you think. I thought that was kind of strange that they would do it on the Recon but not on the other knives. And I also think that it's kind of would be a good thing right there. They did a weird end to that grind. Just a very strange end to that. And here's one more that, they did a really good job. It's not perfect, but where they did the sharpening choil too is essentially what you need. Anyways. Yeah, just something I thought about, guys, and something I wanted to talk to you guys about because I know a lot of guys, including Steve. Steve, I know you're a guy that puts sharpening choils on all of his knives. I know you put sharpening choils on these guys. Maybe hand sharpening, you need it more. You want to get, you have less control. Since a guided system, you're locked in. You can't really slide this way on the stone, and you can just keep that perfect angle. When you're hand sharpening, there's less of that. You're definitely you're definitely trying to stay consistent, but you could much easier, you know, make an adjustment there and make a mistake. So maybe that's what it's all about, and maybe it's just quicker and easier when it has a sharpening choil. This does. Yeah. This cheap little guy has a sharpening choil. So I don't think it's necessarily like... I think this is more by design, to be honest. I think that's how Sal and Eric kind of wanted that, so you can decide how to finish it out. Because personally, I like this. I do. I like how I don't get material hung up there, and I never have to reset myself. I can just pretty much push through and never have to reset. So I do like that. Let me know what you guys like. And now, without further ado, I am going to talk about Wranglestar. Fuck. I'm probably going to flip the camera around because there's no point in fucking showing you guys the board with a bunch of other knives, because it's really just about this knife and Wranglestar. Wranglemoon, as Steve would call him. And honestly, honestly, I think Wranglemoon's a better name for you, bro, because you are no fucking star in my opinion. After this whole, you know, this shit with the Bugout has thrown me for a loop with you, dude. I wasn't a follower or a subscriber before anyways, but now there's absolutely no way you're getting my subscription, dude. Absolutely no way. Not in 100 years, unless you completely change your freaking your channel and your thoughts, to be honest. That sounds... Anyways, I'm going to flip the camera around and talk about this. All right. I know it's kind of pointless for me to flip the camera around anyways. Like, you guys need to see my face, but it's all going to be talking anyway, so I figure you might as well see my expression because it might make you laugh. Honestly, I saw Wranglestar's original 940 review. He just loves the 940 with all his heart, and he is so into that knife, and he's just smitten with that knife, and for good reason. I love the 940. I absolutely love it. But then he goes ahead and Benchmade sends him this knife free. And what does he do? I mean, in his video, you watch his video about when he's talking about getting this, he asks for another one, which I know he did a lot. He's brought a lot of people to Benchmade 940 probably with his videos, but holy shit, dude. What kind of person does that? When someone says, I'm going to send you something free, and you go, well, you know what? You should send me another one for my wife. Like, are you fucking kidding? I thought that was kind of shit to begin with, dude. I thought that was a little, presumptuous and entitled in a sense. So, that's just my opinion, guys. This is all just my opinion. And I'm definitely going on a rant here, so it's getting more into my opinion. Then he gets it in the mail, and he's like, oh, he's smitten over it. He loves it. It's like, it's kicking his 940 out of his pocket. That's what he says. He goes on he does this, like, intimate review on the knife about how much it's taking the 940 out of his pocket, and it's killing the 940 now. It's a 940 killer. It's gonna replace it. His review says he's going into it and really getting into how much he loves this knife. He takes the pocket clip off, which the pocket clip's one of the best features of this knife, with it being so light. This little bit of extra retention. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're out there and you love this. When it's in your, like, pajamas or whatever you guys are carrying it, I find it in my pajama pants all the time. Steve and I were having this conversation yesterday, so I know he does too. And we talked about this, and we both just think it's absolute bullshit. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. This is what made me want to do the video, is that talk with Steve. So this knife, he says, oh, I take the pocket clip off because that's what makes me lose knives. This pocket clip, how good the retention is and how short it is on such a light knife, this thing never comes out of my pajama pants. This thing just flings around my pajama pants, throw up, like I could throw my pajama pants across the room, and this retention on this is going to keep it in my pants. Excellent retention for such a light knife that could easily slip out of your pants. Tears the pocket up a little bit, which I'm okay with for the extra retention on such a light knife. I feel it's necessary. Anyways, rambling. He goes on about how excellent this knife is and how amazing that, you know, just for the weight and the blade shape, just excellent knife. Goes on this rant, or not rant. He goes into it very deeply about how he loves this thing. Then, weeks later, I think it was like 2 weeks. I didn't look at the actual timeline of what it was, but weeks later, he comes back and says, all I saw was Wranglestar, because I'm not a subscriber of his, but I just see this knife on the thumbnail, and bad, bad, bad. 3 bads. 3 bads, guys. Really? This knife got, like, best knife of the year, like, from many different YouTube channels. It got my performer of the year, and Steve's, and Outpost 76 Gerald's, and many more. I think it was Slicey Dicey. This was on your best of list too. Guys, whether you love this knife or not, whether personal opinion aside, whether you love this knife or not, this is a great knife for somebody. When you're talking weight to cutting ability to handle to blade, all the ratios, if you look at every ratio in a knife, this knife fucking rules, all of them. Weight to blade length, handle to blade length, thinness of stock to, I mean, just everything. I mean, just everything about this knife is excellent. The thinness of the stock with the width of the blade, all the ratios are excellent. Now, if it's my opinion and I don't like it because of the plasticky handles, that's a fucking totally subjective thing. That he should have no business being bad on a Benchmade. Like, this is kind of something I talked to Steve about yesterday. I have right now I have like 347 subscribers. I have that many subscribers, and I'm reaching out to 300 and something people, and I'm not going to want to give the bad impression, make someone want to go get something that I don't necessarily think is an excellent choice to decide to go get. And I want to go as far into it as I possibly can. I also, every time I do these videos, I always say it's my opinion, it's my example. I try to be as objective as possible, even though this is all a subjective thing. This really is a subjective thing. It's my opinion about this knife. I try to be objective, but it is my eyes seeing it. It's my example. So there's a lot of things that are going into this that are subjective. I'm trying to be objective as possible, but they are subjective. He goes on full fucking subjective. Like, it's plasticky. It's plasticky. And then he goes into saying he can grab it here and break it, and that he couldn't do that with his 940. I call bullshit, bro. I call full-on fucking bullshit. For one, if you can break this knife, good on you, bro. It's definitely not... I probably could break this if I really went at it. I'd break it here at the pivot, probably. I wouldn't break the plastic. The pivot would give before the plastic would break. For one. For two, fucking cocksucker. You want to talk? I could fucking break this too, dude. I could break your fucking 940. You want to talk about grabbing it at the pivot? I could break any knife. I could break a fucking Recon 1 like that, dude. That's not how knives are supposed to be used. You're not supposed to fucking twist it sideways on the pivot. That's retarded, dude. Knives are meant to be cutting down through... Dude, what the fuck are you even talking about, dude? If you want to talk about quality, feel, and hand, I can understand your perspective. Subjective, dude. That's your opinion. The plasticky feel, a lot of people aren't going to give a shit. And in use, I don't find it to be any less useful than G10 or aluminum or titanium. Now, if you're talking about comfort in hand, maybe. You know, I do find this G10 to be a little more comfortable in hand than the plastic, the Grivery. I find the aluminum to be a little more pleasant in hand. Unless it's cold, then I actually find the Grivery to be a little bit more comfortable in hand. The aluminum gets freezing. Guys, what the fuck is he talking about? Tell me, if you guys are out there and you're Wranglestar followers and you're gonna like blow me up right now, please tell me how you can still be subscribed to this guy after that video. He makes you guys go out and buy a knife because he gives you such a high, you know, regard of it, and then he turns around and fucking 2 weeks later gives you a full-on bad negative review. How can your opinion change that fast? And maybe you need to fucking reconsider your opinion on knives and what you're looking at when you get it out of the box. Because when I give you guys my first impressions of a knife and then do my review, it's never that fucking drastic. It's never like I love this knife when I get it out of the box and then I fucking hate it 2 weeks later. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Tell me if you guys have done the same thing, like loved a knife right when you got it out of the box and then 2 weeks later you hate it. Yeah. I mean, I've had knives grow to dislike, like after months and months of use, I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe this isn't quite right for me. I can understand, like, once the honeymoon phase is over, like, kind of like feeling like the knife isn't as good as you thought it was at the beginning. I can understand that. I can. But completely changing your whole outlook on the knife, you knew they were plastic handles when you bought it, dude. You knew that shit right off the bat. Why did you say you loved it and then all of a sudden you hate it? What the fuck? How does he have 1 million subscribers? And how are you still subscribed to him after that video? Oh, I just think it's absurd. I'm sorry, guys. If I'm being, like, patronizing at all, if I'm patronizing you at all, I'm sorry. I think this is just absurd. I don't know. I hold myself to a certain level as I'm doing these videos for you guys because I have to try and stay objective. Oh, man. What the fuck, guys? I mean, yeah, it's plastic. And the thing he says about it pinching your skin, dude, you got some fucking girly hands. Seriously, dude. Oh, my God. It does not pinch your skin. And Steve said something to me yesterday that I was like, yeah, you're absolutely true. So is it rigid or is it plasticky, bro? Because you're saying it's just so cheap, plasticky feeling, but then you're saying it's so rigid that it pinches your skin. It's so hard. Fucking make up your mind, dude. Damn it. What? Why are you guys still following him? And if you are, please unsubscribe. Like, what the fuck? Maybe his other videos are more intuitive. Maybe they're more, I don't know. I just, oh, fuck. I probably shouldn't be bashing him so badly. He's huge, and I'm just a peon compared to him. But, yeah, who out there agrees with me? Who out there disagrees with me? Tell me how you feel. I've already rambled enough. This is probably a 25 fucking minute video, which it meant to be like 15 minutes. Yeah, I don't know. Guys, this isn't my favorite knife ever. And to be honest, against the 940, I don't know if I'd say it takes the 940 out of my pocket, because they're different knives. They're very different knives. And the way he says they're very similar, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You're not very perceptive, in my opinion. So, anyways, fucking ramble. I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Let me know how you feel about sharpening choils and plunge grinds and finger choils. Also, let me know how you feel about Wranglemoon. Yeah, Wranglemoon. That's your new name, dude. You are no fucking star. All right, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching my rants, and I appreciate all you guys. And I will not. I promise, guys, if I'm at all ever wrong about a knife, I will try to be as perceptive as possible in my first impressions, and also I hope to never like do something as drastic as he did on this one, because I think that's absurd. Have a great day, guys. Hopefully you got this far. Probably not. Take it easy.